everyone, welcome back to the Relax and Craft YouTube channel. My name's Fleur and today we're having a little bit of a findings review plus a little demo. So I've got 3 findings that I've never used before until a couple of days ago when I made these sample pieces, and I really like them. And I thought that if you're struggling to make pieces of jewellery because you don't like crimps, crimp covers, that kind of thing, maybe one of these 3 may be your answer. So the ones that I've found, I've all got these all from a UK company called Spoilt Rotten Beads. I'm not affiliated with them or sponsored to say anything, but I got these from Spoilt Rotten Beads and I ordered them one day and they came the next. They were really fast UK delivery. I think they ship worldwide, I'm not quite sure, but I will leave their website down in the description. So the first one that I found are these little piggy noses, piggy rings, and they are like little wire guardians. So your beading thread goes underneath, up and through. You can just see the tiny little loop of beading thread. Let me just zoom in so you can see, and I will do a demo on how I've used these in a second. So you can see they're just like wire guardians. The wire has gone up through one side of the beading hole and down through the other, but it's left you with this wonderful ring on either side, which you can then either attach findings to, or you could attach some macrame to, some leather to, whatever kind of sort of like fastening you want to use. They're brilliant. Or it could be stations in a little stations that you can then connect to as well and have this really nice ring feature on the end. So they're the piggy rings. They were really lovely to make. Just for reference, from the company that I said I got them from, these were £2.95 for 10. So great findings, great to have in your stash. You do need to use a crimp and a crimp cover or one of the other findings that I've got coming up in a minute with these as well. So they are just like a wire guardian, but they're just a little bit nicer looking than a traditional wire guardian. I really like them. They come in silver plated and gold plated. The next one that I found were these magic crimps. Now these are really great. These are like a crimp and a crimp bead all in one together. So they have like a little crimp bead that sticks out of the side and then you just push that down in. These are really lovely. They give a nice professional finish to your pieces. The only downside that I could see with these is you do need a little bit of dexterity and strength in your hands to be able to push the crimp into the bead. They are a little bit tough to do and you do need some like wide nose pliers to do that, but apart from that they give a really lovely finish. I've just used a little bit of French wire just over the top of my beading thread that you can see there, just to give a really nice finish to the piece. But yeah, crimp and crimp cover all in one, really perfect. And then the last one that I found is one called a Bead Bandit. Now these are absolutely fantastic. They give that really lovely professional finish, and all your sort of like finding or your crimp is inside this little tube. They come in 2 parts, and I'll show you up close in a second when I'm putting them on. So they come in 2 parts, really lovely. You just have to be careful that you're going to create quite a lot of length with your findings with this one. So this measures roughly about 4.5 with a jump ring and a clasp in there as well. So just so you know, they are they do add quite a lot of length, but the good news is you're not using as many beads if you're using it on a beaded bracelet. You would be able to use these on cord as well, but you just have to be mindful of the beading hole. But let me show you how I've used all these and see if you think that they are as good as I do. So the one I'm going to start with is the magic crimp. And like I say, these are the ones that have got like a crimp at the top and then your crimp cover in effect underneath. So the little bit that's sticking out is what's going to crimp down onto your beading thread. and then you've got this lovely round bead, which is about a 3mm bead there to sort of like finish your piece off. So what you're going to do is you're going to just use this like it was a crimp, and then you push that little crimp bead there down into the bead itself. Now the beading hole on these are about a 0.9, so whatever you're making, just remember you've got to, if you're making a beading thread piece that you need to attach a finding to, you need to go back down through this twice. So as long as you can do that with your beading thread, then that's no problem. So I've got one here that I've already started to make one end on. So as you can see, I've just got my jump ring on there and my beading thread, and you can see that it's just left this lovely little silver bead. So the way that they work is we take the end of our beading thread, we place it onto the magic crimp, let that go all the way down, and then we're going to use just a jump ring. We just grab a jump ring quickly, and then obviously you can put a clasp on this end if you wanted to, but if we just start with a jump ring, then we can just open that up and put a clasp on when we need to. So I'm just going to close this jump ring up just so that it's nice and secure. Now if you wanted to put a little bit of beading thread, a French wire over the top of your beading thread, then you're going to get that really nice professional look to your pieces, but just for demo purposes I'm just going to use my beading thread. So I'm going to go through the jump ring, and then I'm going back down through the magic crimp. Okay, so like I say, we're using it just like we would a crimp bead, and then we're just going to make sure that that's nicely through. We don't want it too tight at the top. We want to be able to make sure that the jump ring can move around so that there's no stress on there and there's no gaps in our piece that we're using. Everything moves. So when you're using beading thread, should we zoom out just a tiny little bit? When you're using beading thread, you still need to make sure that everything moves and bends. We don't want it rigid. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to hold this into our flat nose pliers. Now I'll see how close I can get. So take hold of it in your flat nose pliers like so, and you're going to just push that crimp down into the piece. So hopefully you can see that. And just pushing it down. So sometimes they go down all in one, and sometimes they just take a couple of little squeezes for it to go down in. Just make sure that I've got the right area. There we go. And squeeze. And that is as simple as it is. So that's now crimped my beading thread, and so you can see that where the little where it used to be sticking out is now gone down and is now gripping hold of my beading thread. So that now is in place. All we need to do is take our cutters and just cut away the end of my beading thread, and there you have, as simple as that, your magic crimp attached. So like I say, you just need to have a little bit of strength in your hands just to push that down, and I would suggest using something like a wide nose plier just so you can really get some purchase on it and give it a squeeze. Okay, and don't try and do it all in. I mean, sometimes they go in a lot easier. Sometimes you can hear like an audible click as it goes down, and sometimes you need to just give it a couple of pushes with your pliers and it's gone in. But that gives you a really, really lovely finish to your piece. Really, really beautiful. So that's your magic crimps. Now let's go on to your piggy rings. So the piggy rings are, like I say, wire guardians. So what they look like is, if I get one of these out, I can show you. You have got two little beading holes, two little holes in the ring that you can see there. You've got two little beading holes, two little holes, apertures just there, and what we're going to do is use this exactly the same as we use a wire guardian. So if I just bring over the piece that that I've started, now I've used a gold one on this side just so you can see how much of the beading thread you can see through it. So you can see a tiny bit of beading thread underneath. Now, so you can either use a crimp and a crimp cover, or you could use a magic crimp as well. So the one that we've just used, you could use that rather than a crimp and a crimp cover, but just for demo purposes I'm just going to use a normal crimp bead. So if I just grab myself a crimp bead, and I'm going to place this onto my beading thread, and then taking my piggy ring, I'm going to go up through one side of the beading hole and then down through the other side of the beading hole. So you can see it's just creating that loop. And then as we pull that down, we can see, I'm just going to bring that all the way down. I like to take it all the way down to the crimp bead, and then holding on to the end of my bracelet, you can see that that's now starting to come a little bit closer down, and then taking the end of my beading thread back through my crimp bead, like so. And so we've now attached that onto the... So once you've got your crimp down next to your last bead and you're happy with how much of your beading thread is going through there, then you can go ahead and you can just crimp this down. Like I say, if you're using a magic crimp, you can you just push that crimp bead inside, but if you're using a crimp and a crimp cover, then you would just go through, like in the previous video where I showed you how to use crimps and crimp covers. I'll just pop a little card at the top of the screen here just to take you to that video if you've not watched that one yet. But you can see there how that would create a really, really beautiful finish. And like I say, I've got one of each colour on here because I think they're really gorgeous. Now for me, I would love to now place a piece of macrame or one of the silicone slider beads on here. So either put some cord here and here and then a silicone slider bead, or maybe just open and close the jump ring and place a clasp on one side and you know, attach it to the other. Now the only thing is these are solid loops, so you can't open and close them to sort of like attach a jump ring onto there. You have to add something onto here first, but that gives them a really good stability as well. Right, let's do the last one, the Bead Bandit. So this is your Bead Bandit. Now these are very clever little findings, and they give you that really beautiful professional look to your pieces, because everything that you are like holding your piece together is actually inside this little barrel. So they're really, really clever. They come in two parts. So you screw the bottom of the little like flowered section. You can feel all the little ridges around there. You unscrew that piece and you've then got a cylinder with then a screw section here and a beading hole in the bottom. Now this isn't a great a large beading hole. I don't know if you can get different sizes of Bead Bandits with different beading holes going through, but this does comfortably take the 0.38 beading thread and it will take 2 0.3 beading threads as well. But you could, if you wanted to, use a cord as well going through. So you just have to test what you can get through that little beading hole. Now the way that these work is we need to take them apart. So we start with them separate, and we take our bracelet, and as you can see I've already done one end of this bracelet, and we're going to place on the screw section of the Bead Bandit. So taking the screw section with the flat plate, can you see that? Okay, with a flat plate facing the beads. So let that go all the way down so that that now is facing the beads and the screw section is out towards the end of the bracelet. And then we're going to take a crimp. Now if you're using a beading thread, then you can just tie a knot in this, or if you're using monofilament, maybe a small seed bead at the end. But we're going to just take a crimp bead over the top there, and we're going to let that go all the way down. Now the crimp bead is what's going to stop this moving, so it's going to actually just grip hold of the beading thread by itself, so it doesn't have to bend round and go through anything else. It's just a single piece of beading thread. So we can then go ahead with our crimping pliers, and if I just take hold of my crimp in my crimping pliers at that bottom station, don't worry if it's not close yet, so if I just take hold of that, bring in my piece down, making sure that it's nice and level, I can then go ahead and just squash the crimp. So just squishing that crimp onto its side, just to make sure that it's a nice small bead that's now sitting on top of one half of my Bead Bandit. I can then go ahead and just trim down the beading thread. Just make sure that your crimp is crimped on nice and tight, and then all we need to do is take hold of the cylinder part of the Bead Bandit, place it over the top of the crimp, holding on to the screw section there, and then just screw down the Bead Bandit cover. So I'm just making sure that it's not going to come undone. So what you can do is just hold the bottom section, and then just make sure that it's really tight against the screw section there, and there you've got a really beautiful finished piece. Now you do have these little holes in the top there, so you can then just go ahead and attach your jump rings and your clasp to it. But I think it's a really beautiful finish. Like I say, the only thing you have to be careful of with this finding is that it does take up quite a lot of space. So if you are using something like your bracelet board, just make sure that you have your findings laid out in front of the, in one of the little sections here, and then put your beads around so you know that you've got the correct amount, because this does take about 4.5 centimetres up with your clasp as well. So let me just show you there. So you can see there the end of the bracelet is here. So it's just about just under 4.5 centimetres. But that is the only thing that you have to be careful of with this finding. And I just think that they're really beautiful. In fact, I love all three of the findings that I've used. And like I say, these were all purchased through Spoilt Rotten Beads in the UK. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get these findings anywhere, wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to find somewhere. But the names of them really quickly again are the magic crimps. So that was the one where the little, you have the little tab sticking out, the little crimp sticking out, and you physically pushed it down with your pliers. So it's like a crimp and a crimp bead in one. So that's your magic crimps. Then you have your Piggy Rings, which are just a variation of your wire guardians. Really beautiful, lots and lots, I can see lots and lots of different uses for these as well. You can use these in conjunction with your magic crimps as well if you don't want to use a crimp and a crimp bead. And lastly, your Bead Bandits. Where I purchased these from, I think they were about, I think they are 80p each. But I think for that 80p you get a really beautiful finish to your pieces. I managed to get these in silver plated and gold plated as well. So there is different finishes out there as well. I'm not sure if you can get them in precious metal, but let me know in the comments if you do find them. And if you do find them, don't forget to tag the shop that you got them from as well, so we can just let everybody else know if you're from anywhere else out the UK that maybe is struggling to find them. So I hope you found this little review and demo interesting. I'd love it if you could give this video a little bit of love by either giving it a thumbs up or dropping me a comment, and if you have liked this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell button so that you get all the notifications. So when I drop a new tutorial or review or unboxing, you'll be the first to know. But thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.